Look like Caitlin Clark could be returning this week after all. Guys, for this one here.
Breaking news from Indiana. The entire WNBA is talking about the Fever's recent roster change.
I'm telling you, when Caitlin gets back, it's going to be scary from a backcourt standpoint because the two of them with the ball in their hands, without the ball.
That's a threat.
And as a post player, your eyes have to light up because if there's that much attention from the backcourt,
they're going to find you.
If you set screens,
if
you set early drags in transition, the sky's the limit of what you all are able to accomplish.
Fans are going crazy at the implications of Caitlin Clark's name being mentioned again. Would she eventually make a comeback? I'll explain everything, but first, do you believe that this action marks Clark's return?
August 18th, 2025, according to the WNBA transactions page, the Indiana Fever released Kyra Lambert. So if that is indeed the end of Kyra Lambert's Indiana Fever tenure, it did not last very long. It was just last week we were figuring out who Kyra Lambert was and what her signing meant for the team.
For most individuals, Kyra Lambert's official departure from the Indiana Fever is just a minor transaction that appears at the bottom of the sports page. However, it feels like something a lot more to Fever supporters and, to be honest, the entire WNBA at the moment. Unless you're planning a significant roster change, you don't just cut a player in the middle of a season. And in the midst of this chaos, Caitlin Clark is the obvious name.
So the Indiana Fever waived Kyra Maxwell, and she didn't even get a thank you post. She didn't even get a thank you post from the Indiana Fever. They didn't even get a thank you, Kyra Maxwell. She didn't get a thank you post. But a lot of people are celebrating this because they think that Caitlin Clark's coming back.
Let's not sugarcoat it now. Fans are worried since Clark hasn't been playing lately and has missed every game. The rumors were heightened by the fact that she didn't even go on the team's recent trip. Is the Fever merely exercising caution? Or is this a component of a bigger scheme to reintroduce her to the public eye at the ideal moment? Lambert's departure just created a vacancy on the roster. Additionally, the math favors Clark unless Indiana has some sort of covert agreement with an international player that we are unaware of.
I've been referring to. I know Rudy from Coming Out the Podcast. Shout out to Rudy. Rudy did a whole entire video breaking down what Holly Rose said. Is Caitlin Clark coming back within the next week or so? I personally wouldn't bring her back against the Minnesota Lynx, but also, depending on the severity of Sophie Cunningham's injury, I might not bring her back, period, for the rest of the season. I might play if Sophie can't come back, if it's not serious, then maybe we are talking about Caitlin Clark coming back. I did say when she went down and this period of time started to get longer and longer and longer and longer, by the time she's cleared, if we're in a playoff spot...
Naturally, this cannot be taken at face value by WNBA fans. People start rushing online right away and making up crazy theories. Some people believe that Kennedy Carter would sign with the Fever, which is completely illogical given that she recently signed a contract elsewhere. Others believe that after failing to restore Sophie Cunningham's complete health, Indiana is attempting to hide something. However, when you examine the data, every arrow points in the same direction. The return of Caitlin Clark is closer than anyone anticipated. Here, let's be honest. Kyra Lambert participated in 2 games and played 1 minute. That's all. A minute. That player isn't on rotation, that you're not even considering that as a bench piece. That's a name at the bottom of the list and a warm body in action. She had a chance because of the Fever. They're now moving on since it didn't work, alright. However, what's remarkable about this is the timing. They had weeks to take this action. Why now? Why against the Minnesota Lynx just before 2 of their most important games of the season?
I think she's going to return by the end of the season. The question is, when? Are we really bringing her back against the Minnesota Lynx? Would that be the smartest idea? No, not really. Not really. Let's take a look. The Indiana Fever have been playing through the 2025 season under head coach Stephanie White. Indiana is led by Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston, Kelsey Mitchell, Sophie Cunningham, and several other stars. While they have one of the best rosters in the league, they've been missing Clark. Clark has missed a majority of the season, currently working through a groin injury. The last time Clark was on the floor was a matchup against the Connecticut Sun on July 16th while the Fever were on a 3-game win streak. It's been over a month at this point.
The Lynx are dominating everyone in the league with a 28-5 lead, and Indiana is aware that they need star power to survive. They have fought their way back up to 6th place in the rankings, which is remarkable considering how difficult things appeared at first. However, they must have Clark on the court if they hope to be in the running for the playoffs. The front staff of the Fever is aware that no other player on their squad has the ability to alter games the way she does.
The first thing that I wanted to bring up is a comment that Scott Agnes made on his YouTube channel. Scott Agnes was replying to someone else's comment who said, "Just can't wait until Cece is back. She's the most dynamic, electric player in the WNBA. Great job, Lexi." And then Scott Agnes replied and he said, "Have patience, at least several more weeks." Now, Scott Agnes is a beat reporter for the Indiana Fever. He has been covering them relentlessly all season, and we have gotten a lot of great information from Scott over the season. And I actually went to his YouTube channel and just kind of skimmed through the comments to see if there was anything else. There was one other reply where he was replying to someone and basically said, like, "You have to trust me or just trust me." It's up to viewer discretion. It's up to the fans if they want to believe what he's saying, but several more weeks pretty much puts Caitlin Clark to coming back at the very end of the regular season.
This is the question that keeps coming up. Is Indiana actually going to start playing Caitlin Clark again against the league's top team? Or is this only a smokescreen to give supporters hope while the medical team prolongs the situation? It seems irresponsible to me to put Clark back on the court against Minnesota. That's fire baptism. That's putting her in the lion's den and hope she emerges with a minimum of 25 points and a few spectacular plays. Surely, the Fever must be more intelligent than that. Correct. However, this is the Fever that we are discussing. The same squad where supporters publicly question whether Stephanie White and Amber Cox are even in agreement. Sometimes it seems like one of them is preparing for the future while the other is frantically trying to win right now, and this misunderstanding manifests itself on the court. Cutting Lambert is not a significant move in and of itself. But when you connect it to Clark's possible comeback, it appears to be a combination of hope and desperation. And throughout the season, Indiana has been serving precisely that drink. Remember that Clark is currently in her 2nd year and is not a rookie who is astonished by her first experience playing professional ball. She has experienced the turmoil. She has witnessed the brutality of this league when every veteran declares that your body is open season. She is aware of the physical costs, the noise from the media, and the constant circus that accompanies her everywhere. Being healthy isn't the only reason to return at this precise moment. She needs to demonstrate that she can lead a squad through situations that would break most players. Naturally, fans are clinging on every little hint. As if the rankings suddenly revealed what's going on behind the scenes, many instantly exclaimed, "See, Clark is coming back," as the Fever went from 7th back to 6th in the rankings. It's a lovely idea, but let's face it, Indiana hasn't exactly been successful without her. The rankings simply serve to emphasize how urgently they require her back. And the hard schedule. Utterly vicious. Minnesota twice consecutively, followed by Seattle, the Sparks, the Valkyries, Phoenix, and Chicago. Oh, and just for good measure, Washington is included. When would you like to return if you're Clark? Minnesota is a surefire pain, therefore you don't want to play them in your first game. Seattle will make it personal, so you also don't want them. Thus, the Valkyries and Sparks might be involved. Those seem like easier places to land. However, there is a chance that the Fever won't wait that long. The crazy thing is that followers are keeping a close eye on social media during all of this. Every 5 minutes, they check the Fever's X account, update Scott Agnes' feed, and bombard all insiders with tidbits of knowledge. And you know what? Not a single word is being spoken. Not Sophie Cunningham, not Chloe BBY, and not the coaches. Quiet. It only exacerbates the situation because in this league, quiet might signify one of two things. They are either concealing unfavorable information or preparing to make a shocking announcement. And that announcement is desperately needed by the WNBA. There aren't many compelling narratives in this league. And the only player doing it every night at the moment is Caitlin Clark. Whether you like her or not, she draws attention. She is a ticket salesperson. She fills arenas. Therefore, if Indiana is at last prepared to bring her back, a silent press announcement is not what to expect. Be prepared for fireworks. Anticipate highlight reels. The league will undoubtedly take advantage of this to get as much attention as possible. This is the cynical aspect of it. Though, what if the Fever is merely a glimmer of hope meant to divert their attention from their issues? Although it provides supporters something to think about, Lambert's removal doesn't address the team's shallowness. It doesn't compensate for Sophie Cunningham's precarious position. It doesn't clear up the misunderstanding about coaching. It just creates one roster place, and what good is it if Clark doesn't get that slot? The frustration starts when you see that signing another bench warmer won't make a difference. Too many times, fans have experienced this roller coaster. They have witnessed the Fever falter in critical moments, mishandle rotations, and make mistakes in player development. Now that Clark's recovery is uncertain, every choice seems more significant. There will be a nasty backlash if Indiana handles this incorrectly. This is the bit that truly makes the entire situation amusing. At last, the Indiana Fever began rearranging their roster and making important choices. And Kira Lambert stands out among all the players they release. With all due respect to Kira, let's face it, this action had nothing to do with her. Until Caitlin Clark was prepared to take back the seat at the table, she was essentially holding it. That is the WNBA's harsh reality. Half of these roster changes are more about who we must cut to make room for the star than they are about strategy. And who is the celebrity? Clark, Caitlin Clark at all times. Fever fans are now giddy. WNBA Twitter is ablaze. All of a sudden, every sports blog is behaving as though they had been following the craze religiously since 1997. The same thing is being said by everyone. It looks like Caitlin Clark will be back sooner than anticipated. And to be honest, it makes perfect sense if you've been listening. Why else would Indiana act at this time? You don't make this kind of roster shuffle on a random week unless you're preparing to bring back your franchise player. And that's where the humor lies. Although everyone is acting as though this is some bombshell news, everyone understands deep down that the league cannot afford to keep its biggest draw off the floor for much longer. They require Caitlin for ticket sales. They require Caitlin for TV ratings. They need Caitlin hype. The Fever are but another mediocre WNBA team vying for 6th place in the standings without her. Suddenly, ESPN sent camera crews to accompany her. Every sporting event features a Caitlin Clark segment, and sales of merchandise are skyrocketing. Both the league and Indiana are fully aware of the stakes. Since timing is important in this situation, let's also discuss it. The forthcoming schedule for the Fever is harsh. Minnesota twice, followed by Seattle, the Valkyries, and the Sparks. If they don't get their star back, that stretch could ruin their season. Yes, we better get Caitlin back on the floor now because this lineup is going to eat us alive, the front desk staff commented after taking a look at it, and you can't hold them responsible. This team has little chance against the Lynx or Storm without Caitlin shooting and her ability to draw fouls. Even though she isn't fully recovered yet, the Fever needs her presence. This is where it becomes even more interesting. Basketball isn't the only topic here. Every small thing Caitlin Clark does or doesn't do makes headlines in this cultural circus that has become her story. She misses a game, it makes national headlines, she makes a historic comeback, and she gets fouled hard. All of a sudden, we are discussing federal investigations and the potential involvement of Trump. It's really crazy. Caitlin Clark has evolved beyond her role as a player. She is a political football, a ratings magnet, and a walking plot point. So, yes, there are significant repercussions when Indiana makes a roster change like this. Fans are analyzing it as though it were a Supreme Court decision. WNBA sources are rushing to verify if the relocation was legitimate. Since, let's be honest, half of them were initially unaware that Kira Lambert was on the roster. The rest of the league is also paying close attention because everything changes with Caitlin Clark's return. When she's on the court, every WNBA club must modify their approach. Just because she's attracting double teams, defenses suddenly crumble, spacing becomes available, and role players begin to seem like superstars. And you're fooling yourself if you believe the Fever are unaware of it. This entire action exudes a combination of planning and desperation. They're not merely attempting to live. They want to convey a message. They want to demonstrate their commitment to this season to the league, the supporters, and even Caitlin. In all honesty, they are at a loss for options. Netflix would be like Indiana without Caitlin Clark. You can continue to run it, but no one is taking notice, of course. It's entirely possible that Indiana is bluffing and that Caitlin's comeback has nothing to do with this move. Come on, though, how often will we play that game? The focus of every choice made by this franchise is Caitlin Clark. She is currently the focal point of the league in addition to being the focal point of the roster. And whether the Fever acknowledge it or not, their goal is to maximize her influence in whatever they do. The true winners here are the fans, so let's not overlook them in any of this. Fans of the Fever have been hankering over positive news, and this announcement is the kind that gives them hope again. They have endured years of mediocrity, but now that Caitlin is here, they have something exciting to look forward to. In other words, they're speculating wildly. They're already preparing for a playoff run and are purchasing tickets in quantity. Is it too soon? Most likely. Can you blame them, though? After so much time spent watching this squad struggle, Caitlin Clark feels like the long-awaited rescuer. The WNBA is in disbelief as a result. It's not because Indiana made a roster change, but rather because Caitlin Clark's return is set to have an impact on every team in the league. Every coach, every player, and every squad will have to cope with it. After years of pleading for mainstream recognition, the WNBA finally has it. The issue is that everything revolves around a single player, and when that individual has that much influence, the league as a whole appears unstable. Let's call it what it is. Even though Indiana is busy congratulating itself on its difficult roster choices, an indication that Caitlin Clark will soon return to the public eye. Additionally, the WNBA will take full advantage of her when she does. Highlight reels, TV specials, and interminable ESPN discussions are all on the horizon. Furthermore, you can argue that it's not smart business, even though it shows how reliant the league has gotten on one guy. Let's be honest, even though the Indiana Fever make a big announcement, the return of Caitlin Clark is the only announcement that counts. Additionally, not just the Fever will be affected when that occurs. The entire league shall.